Pursuant to Article 2, Section 12 of the Constitution of the State of Tennessee, I hereby declare Representative Justin Jones of the 57th Representative District expelled from the House of Representatives of the 113th Assembly of the State of Tennessee.
Tennessee Republicans have just expelled Democratic Representative Justin Jones, one of the 3 Democratic reps in the state who decided to join protesters who were calling for gun regulation. Now, the protest happened in the state capitol, and while the protests were happening, these Democratic lawmakers decided, you know what, we agree with the protesters and we want to protest with them in solidarity. But that made their Republican colleagues very upset. Their feelings were hurt. And so they decided that they would vote on whether to expel these 3 Democratic lawmakers. They did it. They voted in favor of expelling Justin Jones. They have already voted on a second Democratic lawmaker. So they have decided against expelling the second individual. They're currently, as we speak, voting on the 3rd Democratic lawmaker. And speaking on the House floor, Representative Jones called out his Republican colleagues for punishing those who speak out against gun violence. Let's take a look at that.
A week after a mass shooting plagued our community, the most direct action this legislative body takes, or should I say my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are taking, is to expel us for speaking about the issues of weapons of war on our streets. We called for you all to ban assault weapons, and you respond with an assault on democracy.
Now, the vote to expel another Democrat, Representative Gloria Johnson, failed, and we're waiting to hear about Justin Pearson. Justin Pearson is the 3rd Democratic lawmaker in the House in the state of Tennessee who is facing expulsion, which is kind of crazy, Waz, because it's really going against the will of the people. I mean, voters in their districts voted them into office, and now you have Republican lawmakers just unilaterally making a decision about whether these Democratic lawmakers get to stay or whether they should be expelled. It's insane to me. But what are your thoughts on this?
It's funny because we were talking about Clarence Thomas earlier, and that anti-democratic institution that is the Supreme Court, and how untouchable this guy is. You juxtapose that against these lawmakers in their state government. Essentially, they're proclaiming the voices of their constituency. That's what they get paid to do, to represent the will of the people who elected them and those who didn't, quite frankly. And the idea that they would get expelled, not for some corruption, not for dereliction of duty, that they would make their voices heard is kind of the height of absurdity, politics-wise, anyway.
Absolutely. And I mean, for everything that we hear from the right about, well, we need to protect our rights and our freedoms, is this what that looks like? Deciding to just do away with and expel politicians who hurt your feelings because they engaged in a protest that had a message you disagree with? And by the way, you need a 2/3 majority in order to succeed in expelling a member of the state house. So clearly they had that for Representative Justin Jones. They were unable to secure that vote for Representative Gloria Johnson. And let's talk a little bit about the protest in question, the protest that led to the expulsion and potentially another expulsion. So thousands of protesters packed into the Tennessee Capitol in the afternoon of a shooting, in the aftermath, I should say, of a shooting that claimed 6 lives just last week in Nashville. That was the shooting that led to the deaths of 3 children and 3 adults at Covenant School, a religious school. Many are parents who brought their children to the protest. The crowd chanted things like, "What do we want? Gun control. When do we want it? Now." Popularly dubbed as the Tennessee 3, the Democratic lawmakers spoke out in the House in support of them, and also inside the House chamber. And I'm guessing their behavior inside the House chamber is what hurt the Republicans' feelings. Democratic Representatives Justin Jones, Gloria Johnson, and Justin Pearson took to the podium with a bullhorn and led demonstrators in chants supporting gun control legislation. So we have a tweet that shows you what the scene looked like. The tweeter here did not take kindly to the protest. Gloria smiling in the middle of this stand. She knows they are breaking floor rules. Oh my God, decorum. We must maintain decorum, Waz. I mean, come on. Come on.
Yeah, it's so obviously just a show of force, right? It's that you guys don't get to have a voice in this chamber. Neither do the people that you represent. We have a monopoly on the power of this institution, and we're gonna show you just how powerful that monopoly is. And we're gonna expel you fools. That's all this is. This is just a warning to anybody who would go against the power structure of that institution that we will get rid of you for something as mundane as a protest. Our God-given right as American citizens, our right to protest, have our voices heard. Like the idea that you would be expelled for that. When we hear all of the crazy stuff that politicians are doing on a daily basis, damn near, Anna, that these people would lose their jobs for this. Wow.
No, it's crazy. And look, I've thought about the shoe on the other foot, right? So let's say House is in session and Republicans decide to hijack it. They've got their bullhorn, and for an hour straight, their nonsense is stopping us from conducting, the business that we're supposed to do on behalf of our constituents. I would be annoyed, right? And I think that there is an argument to be made that, like, okay, I mean, how about a censure if it bothers you that much and you want to make a statement about how it's preventing you from being able to do your job? But the expulsion is really another level. And you're right, it's a way of communicating. Don't ever try this again. Anyone on the left, any Democratic lawmaker, know your role, shut up, sit down. And it really is a form of intimidation, and it goes against the will of the people. I love the way that you put that because it's absolutely right. Now, the rhetoric coming from the right-wing lawmakers in the state of Tennessee is really mind-blowing. They've referred to what the Democratic lawmakers did as an insurrection, which is insane. Okay. Also,
you need to expel that word from the discourse forever.
I guess everything's in. Okay, fascist and insurrection, the
Get it out of
two
here.
overused words in the context of politics in America. Like, I mean, is there anyone the left doesn't think is a fascist? But no. And then on the right, really, this was an insurrection? How insane is that? Yeah. So here's a GOP state representative, Gino Bulso, arguing that the actions by these Democratic lawmakers equated to mutiny.
The gentleman shows no remorse. He does not even recognize that what he did was wrong. So not to expel him would simply invite him and his colleagues to continue to engage in mutiny on the House floor. A mutiny which to this body and to this state has been unknown in its 227-year history since we adopted our Constitution in 1796.
And by the way, this comes after they had already stripped the Democratic lawmakers of their committee assignments. So they had already been punished for protesting on the House floor. And just to really put this into context, the expulsion hearing has only been used twice since the 1800s, twice. But apparently they felt that protest rose to the level of, conduct that is worth considering an expulsion for. It's just crazy.
227 years, Anna, of precedence, of honor in the Tennessee State House. You can't go against that tradition. Come on now.
Republicans also control the 99-member House with 75 of the seats. So they've got a strong majority in the state House, and that's why they're able to do what they're doing. And I feel terrible for the voters who elected these individuals into office, and now their preference, now their part in this democratic process has been erased. at least partially by the Republicans forcing their will on the people. That's what they're doing. They don't believe in democracy. They don't believe in change. And they, more importantly, this is really at the heart of it. They don't like to be called out for their unwillingness to do a damn thing to keep their own constituents safe from gun violence. They hate being called out for that. And so that's what that's about. They're embarrassed. They don't want to deal with it anymore. So instead of actually having the courage to stick up for your terrible decisions, they've decided, let's just erase the people who are criticizing us. We don't want to have to answer to them or answer to anyone. So this is what's happening. So we don't know what will happen with the third Democratic lawmaker. We're waiting to see. That hearing is currently taking place as we speak. But we will fill you guys all in on the update as soon as we know what the details are. For now, though, I do want to ask if you have any final comments on this, Waz, before we move on.
Yeah, my heart goes out to these legislators and their supporters. I hope that they're able to land on their feet somehow. And I'm reminded of the fact that if this were some right wingers who, they made a stink about election fraud or one of their pet projects about keeping trans kids out of swimming or whatever, they would have a gravy train of the right wing martyrdom, speaking engagement tour that these folks would be paid up until Timbuktu, and we don't have that on the left for our martyrs, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're right about that. Republicans in the Tennessee State House have now voted in favor of expelling both Representatives Justin Jones and Justin Pearson, two Democrats who joined in on a protest demanding for gun control legislation in the state of Tennessee. The only Democrat who took part in those protests and did not get expelled is Representative Gloria Johnson. Yes, I will note that she is white. The two other Democratic lawmakers who were expelled are not white. So that is now getting a lot of attention. But I just want to be clear, none of them should have been expelled. Not a single one of them. I don't think they did anything wrong. They were elected into office to represent their constituents. They felt they were doing that. And it wasn't as if they were interrupting House proceedings for something ridiculous and frivolous. They interrupted it for something incredibly important, which is the need for legislation to mitigate the insane number of Americans who die as a result of gun violence every year. Waz, any thoughts on this?
It's just horrible. It's even worse than, before this update came in. I don't even know, because I don't even know what the recourse is, especially in a state as red as Tennessee is. I don't know how those people get justice. I don't know how this situation gets redeemed. I wish we had some answers, as bleak as that sounds. I don't know how any of this gets made better when the Republicans over there can just gash anyone who comes up against them.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, I'm sure they'll feel emboldened by this, and it probably won't stop here. As long as Republicans have a supermajority in the House, who's to say they wouldn't vote to expel other Democrats over other perceived issues? It's just, this is not a democracy. You can't have one party make decisions like this unilaterally. And unfortunately in Tennessee, they have this system where they are allowed to do it. It's insane.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.